Welcome to Swolehammer. While we love GW games, every system has its own set of flaws. And while we spent the better part of 9 months in 2022, we realized Age of Sigmar has a lot of them. A few things I want to preface before this video. I do want to say this is supposed to be constructive. I know a lot of the elements might seem very negative, but I ultimately want what's best for the game, and a lot of the decisions made are ultimately tone deaf. One more thing, I want to point out that this video covers things for all players, casual or competitive, depending on the point. I'll try to make my commentary as clear as possible, but I'm not going to deep dive into every single reference that I make because I don't like making overtly long videos. With all that aside, let's get going. First point, and one of the more controversial ones already for competitive players, is remove the universal elements from the game. Aspects of Age of Sigmar such as universal artifacts, the Arcane Tome, universal models like Kronspine, and universal endless spells dominate what players take because they are baseline better than what most armies have to offer. As an analogy, it's like if 40k players only took Inspiring Leader for their Warlord trait and ignored everything in their codexes. That seems pretty asinine, because that's what it is. The endless spell issue is made worse alone by the fact that they are not easy to obtain, so newer players have to deal with random unfun synergies that cheese the game, and they have little to no access to it either. Regiments of Renown were released recently, which shows that their design philosophy will be the opposite of what we think for the foreseeable future, but hopefully 4th edition Age of Sigmar has novel concepts such as letting armies win off their own merits. Number 2, clean up the bookkeeping and rebalance scoring. While the structure of Age of Sigmar's gameplay is fairly smooth, the amount of pre-turn decisions cripples the pacing significantly. Both players have heroic actions to do. The player whose turn it is has to pick a battle tactic, which can halt the actual turn by several minutes alone. My point, battle tactics and grand strategies are poorly balanced, so just remove them for something similar to 40k secondaries. Pick them before the game and try to score throughout. Age of Sigmar has dozens of elements where an attempt to differentiate themselves from 40k was made, but a lot of them, such as battle tactics, come off as silly instead. Then we arrive at the second half of the issue where, since battle tactics and grand strategies weigh so heavily on your score, the actual mission objective becomes secondary most of the time. Obviously, this is nonsensical. Make Age of Sigmar secondaries function akin to 40k or Kill Team secondaries, so it balances how Age of Sigmar games are scored and also cleans up the flow of gameplay. Kill 2 Gryph-hounds with 1 stone. Number 3, revamp list building. Just kill the spam already. I made a video about the problem of spam lists in Age of Sigmar already, so I won't go over it here. However, it must be reiterated that Sigmar's list building is too open, making what can be seen as room for creativity turn into lazy army construction very, very quickly. As of this video's release, 40k has unveiled tidbits of their 10th edition list building changes, shifting to a similar idea as Age of Sigmar's, except limiting a list to be able to take the same unit only 3 times, while battle line units are bumped to 6. This alone seems like a template Age of Sigmar should follow as well, even though it could be argued a lot of Age of Sigmar's model ranges are smaller than a 40k factions. That is more GW's fault instead of an excuse to inhibit lawless list building. Number 4, limit the excessive layers of RNG. Age of Sigmar is filled to the brim with feels bad moments that are supposed to give variance to a battle. Instead, this is absurd design to prohibit consistency. These examples include things such as a leader's ability, like Lady of Vines, only works on a 2-up, and if you fail it, you just can't do it for the whole battle. Nighthaunt's Emerald Host Mortal Wounds also only happen on a 2-up. So the question is, why having to roll? There's already enough variance in Warhammer, because that is what it is by nature. It's a dice game. But making things not function just for kooky moments feels more like punishing you to attempt synergies than rewarding gameplay. Another odd example is 3-inch engagement range, forcing you to stop units outside of 3 inches for a charge, just to give the possibility of failing on a roll of a double 1. The amount of additional RNG left to the dice rolls can make AOS crumble into feeling like Big Warcry, but in the worst possible ways. And lastly, no more double turn. Working from the last point, but worth its own heinous entry on this list, the Double Turn is the definitive BS RNG feels bad generator. Shockingly kept from 2nd edition into 3rd, there have been attempts like the current GHB to give more interaction if you're going 2nd to alleviate how punishing a Double Turn can be, but this comes off more as developers trying to big brain a solution to a big issue that's actually very easy to fix. Many quote-unquote pro players argue you can play around Double Turns, but it's plainly untrue. Also, there's no rhyme or reason behind who could eke out initiative. No modifiers, just a roll-off to determine a possibly huge shift in the game. This turns fun games into frustration or handing out an early indomitable lead. It's the epitome of AOS attempting to differentiate itself with ideas that come off as tone deaf. And as much as I hate to say it, until this is fixed, it's truly one of the biggest roadblocks for Sigmar to be seen in a higher competitive light, similar to 40k or Kill Team. And that's it! So yeah, that video was a heck of a doozy. Obviously, I've said probably some pretty unpopular things, but this video has been in the works for Riley and I for a while. There have definitely been frustrations and aggravations with Age of Sigmar. As much as we try to give it the benefit of the doubt, I still really enjoy the models and the lore, and we'll continue to play at a casual level, but we hope to see some kind of reworkings happen at least sometime in the future. So whether you disagree or agree, let us know in the comments. It's always good to talk to people about these kinds of things. Either way, this is Rafik from Swolehammer. Stay swole.